Hi, welcome to My Favorite Mistake. I'm your host, Mark Graven. Our guest today is Irna Hutabarat Athans, an innovation strategist, author, and speaker. She's an MIT grad. That's how we got connected. She's led teams across high-tech capital markets, manufacturing, and supply chain. Irna now focuses on helping people and companies make sense of technologies, complex technologies, including blockchain and AI, turning that into something human and accessible. She's a published poet. One of those books is titled Poems for the Dying. She's a trophy-winning public speaker and once competed in the Tango World Championship in Buenos Aires. Her most recent book is Blockchain for Girls and the People Who Love Them. So, Irna, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Mark, I'm doing well. And thank you for that introduction. I think you did a better job than I did. Describing myself in a few sentences.
No.
I like to describe yourself, but I'm going to borrow some of your descriptions.
Oh, and it's hard to sit and listen to yourself being introduced or described that way. But, thank you for being here. I've got to ask before we dive into anything mistake related. Tango World Championship. How did that go? Are you still competing?
Oh, how did that go?
Yeah.
I didn't win.
Oh, okay. But still.
There were about 500 people, and I think we probably came out like 451 out of 500.
Oh.
And I joked around, maybe the other 49 didn't show up.
So I got to do a lot of...
By no means an expert tango did. But I did well enough that I could feel I could compete in a world championship.
That's still impressive, even to make it to the world championships. Are you still dancing for fun or competitively?
No, I'm not. I married a man who does not dance. It saddens me. I tried to drag him and convince him. He's like, no. So no, and I miss it with all of my heart. My blockchain book was actually inspired by the years that I lived in Buenos Aires learning tango.
Okay.
Because I lived during a very difficult, they call it the dollar blue period, where you could get your money out. So that was, but we can talk about that later. But yes, I don't dance anymore, but I do have a newsletter called Tango Heart that connects lessons from tango to lessons about leadership and technology.
Okay. Well, you and my wife could commiserate sometime. She also married a man who doesn't dance. And, but we're not, she can, in an event, she goes out and dances where it doesn't require a partner or choreographer.
I do that kind of dancing as well. Yes. More the free movement dance and things like that. And I listen to tango music on my long drives, and I sing tango, and later I will connect tango with AI, but that's something I'm going to do later on.
Okay. Well, for now, Irna, before we jump into other topics, as we always do here, I'm curious, from the different things you've done, what's your favorite mistake?
I had many mistakes.
No.
Choosing my favorite is hard, and choosing one that's relevant to this call was harder. But I believe one of my favorite mistakes that I believe other people could learn from is that I tried to walk away from technology because I felt that it was soulless. It didn't have a soul. It felt empty. And I had different kinds of jobs in technology that didn't make me happy, that I chose to walk completely away from it.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake.
And when did you discover that decision was a mistake? Probably felt right in the moment, or felt like you had to, or you wanted to walk away. Tell us.
That's a really good question. I only discovered it as a mistake, I would say, recently. I would say within the past 12 months or the past 2 years. That was how recently I learned that it was a mistake. I did not see technology as needing someone with my set of skills and values. I actually felt I wasn't unique enough for it, and the impact that it's making is not unique enough to convince me to be passionate about it. And that was why I danced tango.
Yeah.
Tango dancer. I became a writer. I became a world traveler. I became a language learner. I just didn't do things related to technology.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be a part of big data. I didn't want to be a part of AI. I didn't want to be a part of all the things that were cool about technology at that time.
What was the values disconnect? I mean, you mentioned it being soulless. Tell us more about what was missing or what didn't fit for you.
Yeah. I did participate in several startups, and some of the startups I led. I started some of my own company, joined one of my MIT classmates for one of his companies. We failed. We failed a few times. And looking back at why we failed and also why we walked away, my passion wasn't in it. You know, it's like I had a degree from MIT. The name of the university has technology.
Right. So what was your
was reading literature. I love reading Greek tragedies. I love English literature. Books by Thomas Hardy resonated with me and stayed with me forever. And somehow I couldn't connect that to the field of technology for which I prepared my skills, my career, as a launchpad for my career. And maybe I was led into MIT by the need to prove something to the world, the need to prove something to my dad.
Yeah.
We love very much. The need to prove that I'm a woman and I can do it. But these were all the wrong reasons. And at some point in my life, it hit me. What is it that is authentically you, Irna? And at that time, I believed it wasn't technology.
Yeah.
And that cost me many years and great income generating potential.
Yeah. What department? What was your degree at MIT? You can give the course number, but we'll need to translate that for words also. That's a very MIT thing. Everything is numbered.
It is course 15. So it is my MBA. My focus was on innovation, bringing innovation to the market.
Yeah.
So I was a teaching assistant for the MIT New Enterprises. I was actually a teaching assistant for Nubar Thayan, who was the founder and CEO of Moderna, you know.
Oh, wow.
And as a teaching, and the class was called New Enterprises. And so as a TA, I actually reviewed business plans. I worked with VCs. I sat probably as a student, as a TA for 2 semesters, I sat through courses after courses where entrepreneurs shared what made them successful and VCs shared what they look for in a successful startup. I was in the midst of all of that. But what was missing was the spark. And I do believe that successful people, they need to have that spark in terms of doing what they're doing. And I couldn't find my spark in the field of tech at that time, but I found it.
So you're really making me think the overlap between, or trying to find the overlap between, what we can do, what we have the talents to do. Clearly, you had the talents to get in and to graduate from MIT, but to find the overlap between what you can do, what you want to do, what others are willing to pay you for.
Yes, I love it. I found it, Mark.
It's hard to find that overlap. It took you a while.
It took me a while, and it took me with the help of AI to find it.
Oh. Tell us.
That's the irony of it. That's the irony of it all.
The tech that you ran from ended up
Yes.
being helpful. Tell us more about that, because I see things all the time of here are these power prompts that you can put in AI to get the most out. Did you? I mean, what can we learn from how you used AI to figure this out? I think it's really interesting.
Okay, so let me start with what happened 2 years ago. Okay, and it'll lead to this. I went to this conference. It was with a bunch of hotel and restaurant entrepreneurs. And they were talking about job creation and how they're most excited about how AI can replace some of the jobs that are very difficult to manage, right? Like a receptionist at a hotel, waitressing, servers, and reservation management and how AI is going to transform that business. And so there are all these Q&A. And I think there were probably, I don't remember, maybe 500 people in the room. Okay. And it was a very large ballroom. And I was listening to this. I was genuinely worried about some of my friends who are in the restaurant business, right?
Mhm.
People with families. And so I raised my hand and I asked, what will this do? I mean, these are like owners of hotels and restaurant chains, right?
Mhm.
What about the jobs that you're eliminating? What do you think of the families who depend on going to your businesses to feed their families with AI? Because that was my issue with AI, right? It's
Yeah.
going to replace jobs. And many of them could not answer me.
Couldn't, or they hadn't thought about it. They didn't care.
They didn't care.
Yeah.
Okay. They could not answer me. And I was upset because I feel, all right. And maybe that's why technology wasn't as successful. But you know what happened at the end of the speech? There was one speaker that really resonated with me, and he did seem to care. He was a keynote speaker. And I talked to him and I said, I'm curious to know what you think.
Yeah.
And basically what he did was he was impressed that I asked the question that he said, because I asked him, because he was very successful. And I said, you know what? I'd like to help you write your biography because he had a heart. He had a heart. And I want to work with someone who has a heart, who's very successful in business. Maybe there's a way that I can help you with what you're doing. He said, no, I already have enough people working for me. But if you need mentorship, I'd be happy to mentor you.
Yeah.
And he gave me mentorship. He was the keynote speaker. And this other woman at the end also walked toward me, called me toward her. And she said, the fact that you asked that question is the very reason why you have to lean into AI.
Mm-hmm.
Because AI is now driven by people who do not ask those questions.
Yeah.
Okay? And so from then I started looking into it and I started really learning different AI tools, like just really learning more, like changing my perception. And even some of the books that I wrote, they were writer's block can be healed with AI. You know, one of the sources of writer's block is just the mountain that you have to climb to actually create a book.
Yeah.
AI can help you break down tasks into mini tasks, right? You can even ask AI, I had writer's block.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help me overcome that? And AI can say, what is causing this? What is the fear that you have right now?
Yeah.
Where do you feel that fear in your body? No, really. You can program it. You can create it in such a way that it guides you through the reasons for your writer's block.
Yeah.
And it can break down your vision into chapters. Mm-hmm. And chapters into different subchapters. So there are different ways that you can use it. So in terms of understanding my passion for technology, is that what it is that your question mark? Like, how did AI help you overcome your...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's in my experience using AI, a better thought out input prompt usually leads to better output. And there are people sometimes who share, like, you know, here's a prompt I used, copy paste and put it in your head. Does it have to be more individualized?
That is where the secret sauce lies. Okay. I was looking at this interview by Eric Schmidt recently. He was a former CEO of Google. Right. And he said that to be a commander, to be really successful at using AI, you need something called chain of thought reasoning. Okay.
Interesting.
Chain of thought reasoning is where you go into one question, one concept, one question, and you have the answer, but that answer leads you to more questions and more questions and more questions and more questions up until you get to the very source that you can break the AI. I mean, because you know what? This is where you're broken. Unfortunately, many of us are not trained in chain of thought reasoning. Those are things that you develop as children, okay?
Yeah.
And our generation, Mark, the fact that we're older is actually an advantage. Someone actually called us, what was called, is a book that someone told me about, by the way, the perfect generation, the Generation X.
Yeah.
Because we grew up with analog
and
we grew up with digital.
Right.
See, I used to read books, and I love reading Shakespeare and Greek tragedies. And I actually read the Odyssey and the Iliad. I'm not going to watch the movie that's coming out in June.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to watch that too. But those things teach you chain of thought reasoning.
Mm.
And if you learn how to do things in an analog way, right? Whether it's learning how to add and subtract with a pen, or writing with a journal, or walking barefoot, or even like hiking in the woods or something, whatever it was that you did in a non-digital world, writing a letter to someone, reading that letter, and then writing it back really thoughtfully, not in a text, okay? Those things develop your critical thinking skills. And it'll allow you to interact with AI in the way that is different from someone who are raised completely in a digital world and only with short way of thinking, like, see tonight, okay, LOL, laugh out loud, right? It's different. So I actually use AI to go deeper into my thought, go deeper into some of these, I would say, limiting beliefs that I had about what is success, what is blocking me from succeeding, and what do I need to overcome these blockages. It's powerful.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is maybe some of the regret about leaving tech was a limiting belief that you couldn't bring your soul, your feelings, your values into it, so you ran away from it.
Absolutely.
Instead of leaning in to influence things.
Absolutely. That's why you're a good listener. You reframed it very well. Very well. And AI helped me to see that.
Yeah.
And to frame it in the way that convinces me, Irna, you need this. Why? And you can keep asking why. The most powerful question you can ask is why.
Or why?
And as a result, I finished 2 books in a year. I am learning how to use AI to create motion pictures. I'd like to do that. At some point, AI empowers you to be a creator.
Yeah.
Okay. The book is just the beginning. Then you can have an audiobook. Then you can break your books into TikTok videos. You can actually turn your book into a children's lesson, into courses. And what I'm passionate about is into a moving picture, like a machine-powered, like a short movie or some sort that educates, because I'm really passionate about education. All of these things can be created with AI more efficiently. And it brings the voice of the creator out without needing funding from a VC or from a producer or from a rich parent.
Gatekeeper. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, these different gatekeepers.
Without the gatekeepers. AI removes the gatekeepers from the creator.
Yeah.
And that is what excites me, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. I haven't heard someone describe it that way. I tend to use AI, I think, in a very iterative way of being, a thought partner. Different, I think of a search engine as I'd make a request, I get an answer. Okay, thank you, we're done. As opposed to that more iterative process. I mean, I don't eat a lot of I try not to eat a lot of fast food, but there was one restaurant, I won't mention the brand, but the order taking was completely AI. And there was a big thing saying, basically, you are going to be interacting with AI to start your order, say, start order. And this robotic interaction made me wonder, how much are you really saving in labor cost? And, the AI, at least today, can't provide the warmth or the caring that might be part of the experience, not just hopefully accurate, efficient order taking. How do we use AI to supplement people's abilities instead of replacing them?
And that's a fantastic question, Mark. And I'm sure there are people doing this for a living, answering that question. But from my experience, I think there are 2 types of AI, 2 ways of using it. One is the iterative way, and that's why AI agents are really big. It's about repeating things, right? But I think the other way is the chain of thought reasoning. And I believe the best way to use it is by combining both. So let's just say I want to create an educational content for children, okay, using different AI tools out there, okay, like a cartoon with songs and singing and characters that cater to individualized types of children, like things like that, right? I'm going to do that. And I'm going to learn an AI stack to allow me to create that. I need to learn different AI agents that I can put together to make that happen without too much work from Irna's side, right? It's more automation and less hands-on work. And at the end, it's going to be cold unless you add a lot of your warmth and your humanity into it.
Sure.
Which you create with AI using chain of thought reasoning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like things like that. So it has to be, I think you need to combine it. And I do believe that is how you stay relevant. There's a quote that I read that's somewhere, I don't know who said it, but it really hit me. It says that in terms of jobs, AI will not replace humans. It will not replace humans. But humans who know how to use AI, comes to jobs, will replace humans who do not know how to use AI.
I have heard that. And
so you want to, and I think if you're warm, if you're creative, if you are a creator, if you do care about the world and about the future of the planet Earth, I do think it is time to lean into AI and blockchain.
So let's pivot a little bit and talk about blockchain and, the one book of yours, Blockchain for, you're holding it up for those who are on video, watching on video, Blockchain for Girls and the People Who Love Them.
Yeah.
I barely know as an adult man, Gen X, middle-aged adult man. I hear the term blockchain. It was all the rage for a while. I know it's related to cryptocurrencies, but what is blockchain for those of us who don't really know?
Thank you for asking that question. I'll define it in my own ways.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't prepared to answer it right immediately on this podcast, but I think of blockchain as pure blockchain. So now there are those who are reinventing blockchain and want private blockchains or, I don't want to go into all that stuff, but originally the idea of blockchain was about democracy, equality, and distribution. Okay, equal distribution. So essentially it is a ledger. And what is a ledger? A ledger is like a notebook, right? To record things. Okay. Right now, we've been recording things and we're saving that data on what we call a centralized database or any type of database controlled by several, groups, okay, with an owner. And data can be manipulated and data can be questioned. So blockchain is really data that is not owned by a single group, single owner, or small group. It is distributed data. And because it is distributed, this is an ideal system, it can be trusted by everybody. So it's not as if, do I trust Mark's data or do I trust Irna's data? Or can Harvard trust MIT's data? Or can MIT trust Columbia's or Stanford's data? It's not. It's like, this is all of our data collected on a blockchain, and we work together collectively to deliver whatever promise that we promised to deliver. Things like that.
Is that trust why cryptocurrencies are built on this? If we're thinking of, Irna coin, if I were to say I have 1,000 Irna coins, who am I to say? There's this ledger that keeps track of I've spent 10 of them, or how many do I actually have?
Yes. Thank you for that question, Mark. I believe crypto and the people who suffer through crypto, because crypto is a very high risk area and many people go into it without really understanding it, they're doing a disservice to blockchain. Because blockchain is not about crypto.
Sure.
Blockchain is about data. Unfortunately, the data that people care about that moves the world right now is money data. And that's why the potential of blockchain right now is linked to the potential of crypto. But they're two different things.
Yeah.
Blockchain can track the data from my food, right? Is my food really organic? I can trace it from production to plate.
Yeah.
Okay. It can track whether my shirt is ethically produced. If it's really polluting rivers in parts of India I've never visited.
Yeah.
Okay. That's data. Crypto involves financial data. And so as a result, it attracts people. And this didn't come from me. It came from a friend of mine who's been working as a lawyer in this industry before. It's like, it attracts a certain kind of people that wants to get rich quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. And it attracts some people who are involved maybe in crime, or people who heard from their friends that it's great. So they have no idea what it is, but they're going to buy it anyway. It attracts speculators. And unfortunately, it attracts big money that can also manipulate the market, because the rules are not yet clear in terms of what you can or can't do with crypto.
Yeah.
And so it's very volatile. And that's why I don't really like to explain it in terms of crypto. But yes, some cryptocurrency, most of them are stored within the blockchain, but there are different kinds of blockchain. And so you really have to understand what you're investing in.
Yeah. So why a book for girls? I mean, there's gender gaps in tech workforces, and there are things that drive girls away from STEM education. I mean, like, give us the backstory of the purpose and the meaning, the feelings behind the book.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I looked at the numbers associated with blockchain. I think 6.4% of all VC money go to blockchain companies led by women. 6.4%. I think less, and that's the biggest number. There are lots of numbers. My book has the numbers. I show the gap. So blockchain is not just about crypto. And I actually encourage those who are going into blockchain, don't start with crypto. Really learn what it is. Read a simple book about it first. And by the time it hits you, it probably won't be called blockchain, as the term just got a negative rap. But blockchain, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be in the way we vote. It's going to be in the way airplanes are being tracked. I mean, there was a blockchain in Congress event a few weeks ago. It was 400 people, how the government will be using blockchain, how taxes will be managed, okay, how creativity can be monetized, how NFTs, can be tracked.
We haven't heard about
that.
Sorry, to interrupt. We haven't heard about NFTs in a while. Speaking of
maybe we'll be calling it the non-fungible token. It's going to track. Blockchain is going to be the foundation of anything that involves any type of data, whether even humanitarian data, how you distribute food aid. Right, it's going to be on the block. I know it's going to be on the blockchain. It's just like, the AI is going to be big. And I went to the blockchain conference last week. It's called the DC Blockchain Summit, where one of the key themes was that blockchain and AI and quantum computing will merge. These are the three biggest trends in technology: AI, blockchain, and quantum computing. If we don't have women with voices with these technologies will be built with the intelligence of men. And although I respect the intelligence of men, we have different brain. We think differently. Whether, Mars women are from Venus, women are from Mars, whatever it is, I think for the human element to remain, we need to include everybody's voices. Women, groups are not traditionally dominant in technology and finance. I believe, and I want to be a part of bringing more groups into that.
Yeah. And different perspectives. And I mean, I'm not going to I'm sorry.
Different perspectives. It needs to reflect humanity. I mean, look at the planet Earth, right? I mean, do you want the future of technology to only reflect the experience of a small group of our planet? I don't think so.
A bunch it's not a stereotype, because it's a predominant reality of, the white male tech bro. And that's a type of person. That's one type of person. But, I think, there's this long history of people who are educated in, it's funny, it's called the humanities. But if you think of the humanity that's in the humanities. I mean, I don't read the types of books that you do. I think I'm an engineer with feelings, but Steve Jobs, for example, and other people, imperfect as we all are, bring a different perspective than somebody who's purely quantitative. And it's a stereotype, but it's mostly true. MIT, my experiences there, so values the quant view of the world. Everything is an equation. Maybe not, though. There's other perspectives to bring into it, right?
You need both. I think having an MIT degree is a blessing.
Sure.
With what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And an inspiration, Mark, also are my nieces. They're great artists, and they don't know I don't think they know about blockchain. One told me that she wants to be a marine biologist, but does she know that eventually the movement of whales will be tracked on a blockchain? I mean, that will allow her to look at it a little differently,
Yeah. But we think of, the MIT seal with the, logo, if you will. I'm sure, originally it was two men. It should represent two people. It's the scholar and the worker.
Yes. The mind and the hand.
Going to, the one is holding a book, the one that's holding a hammer. But there's a different duality, and this is not an MIT thing, to think of brain and heart.
Yes.
Thinking and feeling, logic and emotions. Yeah. Everybody at MIT has all of that, but the emphasis is very much in one direction.
I think it's changing. It's changing. I went back to Sloan recently. I think the type of people that they're bringing in are different from the. I mean, I graduated a long time ago. So.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that the ratio of the class too. I think there is like 40% women. I think, if not more, 50% women. So I do think that the Institute is seeing that as well.
Yeah, and there are certain. I mean, I don't know if this is still the case, but I believe I had some classmates that had untraditional undergraduate degrees for coming into MIT Sloan. I'm sorry,
I was one of them.
You were one of them. What was your undergraduate degree?
My undergrad was in chemistry, but I did a short stint working for CNN in Jakarta. And I use that as one of my stories, for my essays. I think that made me unique because my essay was really about, my essay wasn't about answering the questions. It's more about assuming that I'm being interviewed for CNN after graduating from Sloan. Yeah. What would I say? And that was my essay. That was how I framed my whole essay. Yeah. I was being interviewed, I think, by Oprah.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
And so I think because of that, I think I got in.
But you also
and that course and stuff too. But it's
But I mean, there was also the requirement when, as a chemistry major, you certainly took and passed calculus. I think like that was a pretty hard
physics. Yeah.
If you had not taken calculus in college, that people would have to go and to actually go take a course somewhere to sort of become English major eligible. And look, I know there are some English majors that probably took calculus, people that are multi-talented, but it's not a requirement probably. And so, I wonder if MIT or Sloan's a particular, unique case where compared to engineering graduate school, all right, well, you're not going to get in to electrical engineering as an English major, but Sloan, I think, has more opportunity to define where are we drawing business leadership from and who and how are we educating them. And, I think having that, all these different levels of diversity, like was an incredibly internationally diverse program. But I think when I was there, it was probably 70% men, which I think was actually a higher percentage. There was a higher percentage of women at MIT Sloan than there was at Harvard Business School at the time. That's my recollection. Nobody, please don't sue me if I'm making a mistake there. But, I think that diversity in backgrounds and perspectives is enriching.
Especially now, Mark, because right now AI can do the programming for you. You can create a web page using some AI tools. The engineering can be done with AI. I think especially now, it's more about critical thinking. It's about being able to command AI.
Yeah.
And I do believe having a holistic background is helpful.
Yeah. Couple of the questions just to explore, you're talking about these intersections of technologies. I mean, is there another book coming about AI for girls and quantum computing for girls and the people who love them?
Yes. I believe in Michael Jackson's song, "The children are our future."
Yeah.
The children are our future. I'm working on something that I think will allow children to think more critically. I'm passionate about creating children's books, but also children's educational content that helps them overcome limiting beliefs, because I have a lot of limiting beliefs. AI helped me look at them, Mark. Really, I should create an AI agent for what I just did for myself. Really, it's I have serious limiting beliefs about money, because I actually believe at that time that you have to work hard and you have to sacrifice your time and you have to be unhappy to earn money, because money is something that you exchange for your happiness. And my parents were struggling with money, arguing about money, right?
Yeah. And you didn't want that. Yeah.
And I didn't want that. And so, but I grew up believing that I had to exchange my happiness in order to get money, which is not the case. Money is about exchanging value. It's different.
Yeah.
And unless you teach your kids that in the very beginning, your kids could grow up not realizing that money is really about the exchange of value. And guess what? You can create value and find joy in creating that value.
Yeah.
Like these two books, I found joy in creating them. And if I can create something of value that people will pay for, that will make the world a better place, and where Irna remains authentic to Irna, that's my life's mission.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just going to let that sit for a minute. That's a powerful, what you shared there. That's very meaningful.
It took me a while to phrase that. It took me a while. Because what is it you want, Irna, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
To be a creator, creating something that I enjoy creating, that people will pay for, and that will make the world a better place.
Yeah.
But it took lots of AI conversations, chain of thought reasoning, for me to come up with that statement about me.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's not just iteration. You can use it for different purposes.
So if somebody listening, and I'm tempted to do this after we record, I mean, do you just start the conversation with your favorite AI chat and say, can we talk about limiting beliefs that I may have that are holding me back in my life, and see where that conversation goes? It's obviously not a search engine, right? It's not going to tell you, Mark, these are your 4 limiting beliefs. It's probably going to ask, I hope it would ask questions or say what some common limiting beliefs are.
It is. And that's where the chain of thought reasoning comes in. The AI is about asking the right questions.
Yeah.
It's not about answers. It's about knowing how to ask the question and the follow-up question and the follow-up question.
Yeah.
I think the best way is to start with that and to see where you go from there. I'm actually thinking of creating the methodology that I use and creating an AI agent out of it. But I have so many things, Mark, that I want to create.
Yeah.
But yes, that was one of the first things that I did. But there are different things that I did after that.
Yeah.
In terms of asking the right question.
Yeah.
And that's where the critical thinking comes in.
Yeah. And I think one reason people maybe prefer talking to AI is it's probably not going to be judgmental if you make a mistake.
It's not. And you can actually tell to be compassionate.
Yeah. To be compassionate without becoming sycophantic or blowing smoke.
Exactly. Do it. Right? And word it in the way that will encourage me. Or how can I learn from this? Or because, one of my favorite courses that changed my life. In fact, if money wasn't an issue before I went to Sloan, I'd probably be an English teacher, like a literature teacher.
Sure.
The people who changed my life were literature teachers from my high school. It was an AP English class at West Springfield High School in Fairfax County. Mrs. Russell, she made us read so many great books, and she taught us this concept of the tragic hero and of Greek tragedies. And she actually made me realize, this is like I was 17 years old probably, that these great books allow you to ask great questions. Okay?
Yeah.
What is justice? What is beauty?
Yeah.
What is truth? What is love? What is destiny? What is fate? What is free will? Can you imagine a teacher asking a bunch of 17-year-olds about to go to college to ask these questions and telling you that it's really about the question? And these writers, since ancient Greek times, they knew it was about the question. The Odyssey is not about his journey home.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the questions that we get to ask when we read about Odysseus' journey home.
Yeah.
And so with AI, it's also about asking the right questions.
Well, I think we're going to have to leave it at that. Irna, hopefully I've asked some good questions. You've raised a lot of great questions and thoughts and insights with today.
Thank you so much. Can I just plug in my website and my book in case people want to learn more about my upcoming books?
Please do. Please share.
Courses and stuff.
Yeah.
So my website is called athansmedia.com. It's ATHANS media, MEDIA.com. And they can learn more about me and what I'm passionate about on that website.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I encourage people to go take a look. There'll be a link in the show notes. Again, Poems for the Dying is one of the titles, and then Blockchain for Girls and the People Who Love Them. So, Irna, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story and your reflection. This has been great.
Thank you so much, Mark, for listening and for giving me a chance to speak on your podcast.
You're very welcome.
Bye-bye.
As always, I want to thank you for listening. I hope this podcast inspires you to reflect on your own mistakes, how you can learn from them or turn them into a positive. I've had listeners tell me they started being more open and honest about mistakes in their work. And they're trying to create a workplace culture where it's safe to speak up about problems, because that leads to more improvement and better business results. If you have feedback or a story to share, you can email me, myfavoritemistakepodcast@gmail.com. And again, our website is myfavoritemistakepodcast.com.